Tonight, more on the future of Bluff Oysters. But first, another problem in Invercargill. Growing concern about the health of people living near Hastings Aluminium extraction plant. Residents who want the plant closed down or shifted have called in an occupational health specialist to investigate claims that pollution from the factory is causing severe health problems. Kathy Graham reports.
Problems residents say are caused by pollution from Hastings Aluminium extraction plant attracted national attention on homes. That was the same day the report on the problems of firefighters at ICI's Auckland plant was released. Professor Bill Glass was one of the authors of that controversial report, which indicated firefighters were suffering from psychological stress.
What government services have had to learn from the ICI fire is that you believe what people tell you. Now, if you don't start from that point, if you say what people are complaining about is rubbish or it's all in the head or they're neurotic, then you get into the state that we got to with the ICI fire, the thing dragging on until 5 years later there was an inquiry.
Professor Glass has been called in by local residents who want something done about the plant. Asthma has been blamed on its toxic emissions, and families complain low-frequency noise is making them feel sick. So far, 11 cases of illness the victims say relate to it have been identified by a local doctor, and there are likely to be more.
If it's shown to be cause and effect, then clearly the owners of the plant have got to be advised of this. But that's a little bit further away from where we are at the moment.
Invercargill District Council's attempt to restrict the plant's operating hours has been ignored. Now Hastings have been asked to prove their plant is not noxious or dangerous. They'll make their case to the Planning and Regulatory Committee of the Council on Tuesday. They say they're satisfied their operation is within the legal requirements, and they've so far found no evidence the plant is a health hazard.
A full-time course for farming students is to start at Southland Polytech in July. It's a first for the Polytech, and tutors say it'll provide a unique opportunity for people to learn about agriculture in some of the best farming land in the country. Kim Hurring reports.
For part of the one-year course, the 20 students will take their lessons here at the Winton experimental farm. The farm is now managed by Ken Malcolm, who's pleased to see it being used to train young farmers. While they're here, the students will help Ken out occasionally, as well as learn about the theory of farm management.
Well, it's a leading farming province because of a number of reasons. The environment, just the farming community that we've got here. So if we can plug into that strength, that gives us something that I think is going to make it, a really good course.
When they're not at the Winton farm, students will take on paid work at other farms around Southland. With rural land prices up, lamb's worth as much as $45, and the dairy industry improving, there's optimism among the farming industry down here. The Polytech is hoping this will rub off in the form of employment for its Certificate of Agriculture students.
And there are also plans under discussion for the Telford Farm Training Institute at Belclutha. A proposal to turn it into a Polytech has been given unanimous support at a meeting called by the Ministry of Education. Telford's main responsibility, however, would still be farm training. The state of the Bluff oyster beds is once again under very serious discussion. Rumours of flying, speculation is rife. Good information seems scarce. Mark Price previews next week's oyster talks.
The oyster beds have been wiped out, possibly by cyanide. Yesterday the boats found thousands of dead oysters and fish and virtually nothing living in the beds of Fovo Strait. At least that's the rumour an anonymous caller has been spreading around the media today. But it just doesn't check out. Bad weather's kept the 23 oyster boats in port quite a bit this season, but yesterday they each managed to catch of between 40 and 90 sacks. Some of the real information is being brought together by MAFFish in Dunedin. From this information provided by fishermen, it's possible to work out how hard oysters are to catch and consequently how plentiful they are.
The fisherman's information is very useful. It tells us how the season's progressing. It gives us an indication of whether it's as good or worse or better than last year. So it just gives us an indicator of what's happening down there on a fairly day-to-day almost basis.
It's from this and other data that the oyster quotas are set, like the 92,000 sack limit for this season. But the mid-season review is coming up next week, and there's growing speculation about what the outcome will be in view of problems with two oyster diseases, Bonamia and Apicomplexin.
The oyster populations are changing. I guess one of the main features of that is the Bonamia problem. we have to look into how that's affected the oyster populations in the strait, and whether the distribution in the mid-1970s is still the same today, or whether it's changed significantly.
Oystermen, the people who work the boats, have already made up their minds. They want the quota reduced, but they're not saying by how much. Maffish scientists and oyster boat owners may have other views. On Tuesday, the public should be told how many oysters will be available until the end of the season in August.
Bluff may have problems with its oysters. Just about everywhere else, it seems, there are problems with water supplies. In Kakanui, residents have been told to boil their water until tests can be completed. The water supply at Deborah Bay is contaminated. Aluminium has caused problems elsewhere. Now the organism Giardia is suspected to be at large in Dunedin's water supply, although health officials say there's no cause for panic. Kathy Graham reports.
In Dunedin, it's not fluoride that's concerning officials. Dunedin's water engineer Rolly Hayes has other concerns, even at Mount Grand in Brockville, one of Dunedin's most modern water treatment plants. The water is of course chlorinated and fluoridated. Aluminium sulfate's added to clarify it and help in the filtration process. That hopefully gets rid of Giardia and the trihalomethanes, which can form when chlorine interacts with coloured water like this.
That's the first stage of the colour coming off with the aluminium sulfate.
When things don't work out quite right, aluminium gets released into our water supply. It's been linked with Alzheimer's disease. Trihalomethanes have been known to cause cancer in rats.
Well, at the moment, there's no clear evidence that aluminium or trihalomethanes are a significant health risk, especially at the levels that we know are occurring in our water supplies.
Even so, officials are concerned enough to recommend the city's water supply be upgraded. The protozoa Giardia, which results in bad diarrhoea, is causing particular concern.
Although it's not a notifiable disease, we are aware of cases occurring, dare I say it, regularly in Otago, yes.
How much of a worry is that if it is in the water?
Well, if it's in the water, it's quite a worry, because it's a very difficult organism to treat, to basically kill off. Routine chlorination doesn't necessarily kill it. In fact, it forms a resistant cyst.
Although officials say there's no need to panic, they're worried enough to recommend 4 of the city's plants be upgraded. Council's yet to consider the proposal, but it won't be cheap.
Probably in the order of $8 to $10 million, spread over 5 to 10 years.
That's the recommendation that'll shortly go before the Dunedin City Council.
Staff at the Southland Museum in Invercargill are confident their giant pyramid-shaped building extension is on schedule for a midwinter's day opening. John McDermott has been catching up on progress.
The $2 million addition to the Southland Museum has already become one of the South's most distinctive landmarks. The shape is based on the Maori Tahiko pattern, with the triangular theme also very apparent in the choice of interior fittings. Workmen are flat out installing a lift that will service the 4 levels of the museum. They've already completed one of the new galleries, which is hosting an exhibition of New Zealand photography. 2 features of the completed building will be the giant foyer area with its long gallery along the west side, and the huge area inside the top of the pyramid. As well as being used for displays and storage, it's likely to have a big future as a recital gallery. The acoustics are described as fantastic.
And that's it from us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.